Dukkha. Meaning. Dukkha means sorrow, pain, suffering. That is, spanning from the smallest irritations to the most intense physical pains. It is a dominant characteristic in the world in which we live. According to the Buddha, the simple fact of living is marked by the characteristic of dukkha, which is suffering manifesting in all its forms. It can be the sorrow that one experiences in sadness, in the misery or the difficulties of this life. It can be also the sorrow that can be felt when one is saturated with pleasure, to the point that the object of pleasure itself becomes disgusting and repulsive. It is the pain to be separated from those we love, but it is also that of having to endure the presence of those whom we do not love. It is the pain of not living in places where we would like to live, and also that of being forced to live in places where we do not want to live. In one way or the other, whether we want it or not, numerous situations in which we find ourselves are painful. Sometimes, because of this assertion, the Buddha's teachings are accused of being pessimistic, and sometimes it is said that the world is not so painful because there is hope. There is the hope of a better world, the hope to gain paradise, to create a happier world, to build an environment that is more human, more balanced. When people say that the world is not so unhappy because there is hope, the Buddha, in his teaching, tends to tell us that it is precisely because there is hope, which shows that the world is much more unhappy than we think it is. The hope of a better future. Thus, many humans live in hope for a better future. This is already in itself a way of admitting that the present is not so pleasant. Unfortunately, it is obvious that the world is full of difficulties. For some people there are unbearable sufferings. Some must suffer very serious and very painful diseases. Some humans must endure the oppression of insane governments. Some suffer accidents or catastrophes. Others, who do not face such cruel sufferings, have, nevertheless, experienced all kinds of sorrows in daily life, like having to work in a firm with people one does not like, or the difficulty of having lost a close relation, the difficulty of having been ill, or, even, the pain that one can experience when seeing the others suffering. It is for this reason that many humans, almost all, have, in the course of the centuries, imagined an eternal, wonderful paradise, where all beings live in perfect happiness. For some, this paradise is democracy, when living in a country oppressed by a totalitarian regime. For others, it is wealth and prosperity, when living in a very poor country, where one must work a lot to earn only a little. For some, it is the artificial paradise of drugs, when living amid personal malaise or existential problems. For some, it is the idyllic paradise which one presents to the people whose work is exploited, when one becomes part of a religious clergy. Moreover, no religion, including Buddhism, seems to have escaped this rule. Hence, we tend to imagine, plan a better world for the future, even in outer space. What is good in this context is that it proves that the world in which we live today is painful. This is already a good thing. The disadvantage of this approach is that it often prevents people from building a decent life for the present. Thus, people have a tendency to be diverted from the daily reality, which they ought to assume, in favor of an imaginary future that they fabricate.